Hello. Today's live session, I'm going to basically work through the discussion and kind of show you the kind of process to solve a discussion like this. In order to be able to do the discussions, you need to make sure that you have gone through section 2.1 and gone through at least watching my videos on 2.1 and reading the textbook or looking at those examples before you can complete the discussion. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen so you can read the discussion and then we can go through it. It goes there. Okay. So week 2 discussion. In section 2.1, you read about how we can model certain situations using linear equations. In particular, example 8 shows how you can create an equation to predict sales of a company. So definitely take a look at section 2.1, example 8. So for our discussion, pick a company whose sales you want to model and predict. Look up their sales information and pick 2 years of data. Using that information, create a linear equation that can be used to predict the sales of the company. Once you have your equation, predict the sales 2 years from now. Make sure you include in your post the links where you found the relevant information. Clearly show your work. This includes naming the company, sharing the ordered pairs, defining variables, finding the slope, determining the equation, and then using that equation to predict. When replying to your classmates, consider what the company that they chose. How does the growth or shrink of the company compare with the company you chose? Do you think that the equation will be accurate 5 years from now? Why or why not? Okay, so I'm going to go back to pick a company whose sales you want to model and predict. Look up their sales information. Just highlight this, yes. Look up their sales information and pick 2 years of data. So we're going to be using real data, and so I'm going to go to Google so I can find this information. So there are a couple websites that I use to try to find this information. One of them is statista.com, and then one of them is macrotrends.net. So I like macrotrends, so I'm going to just type that in, macrotrends, and just Google that. So this is a link to the website, and you can do a lot of searching. Sometimes searching from the website doesn't necessarily work. But we'll see how it works today. So I'm quite zoomed in so that you guys can see this clearly. And so you can just search for information. I don't know what company that I'm going to do, so I can just kind of look at what they already have. So if you have a company in mind, you can search for that company immediately, or you can just pick, some of the things here. So I'm going to just click stock research, see if it gives us any ideas. So this gives you some ideas. So these are all publicly traded, which means that all of their sales, revenue, profit, all that stuff is public. So that's why I make sure that it's on the stock market. So I can pick any of these companies if I want to find out the information. There's tons of information. Let's see. Hello, Tiffany. Thank you for joining. So right now, for the discussion, I'm just trying to pick a company. I'm going to pick Verizon. So I'm on macrotrends.net. I'm going to just click the link for Verizon. I'm going to say, okay, well, it will predict Verizon's revenue. Okay, so this website does give you ads. And so they have 37 years of history here on Verizon. And what we want is not necessarily the stock price, but we want the revenue and profit. So once the page finishes loading, you can see that it's still loading in the upper left. I'm going to wait for it to load. It's just being really slow today. There, okay, so I can finally click. So I'm going to click on revenue and profit because that's what I'm interested in. Is if I'm going to look for sales, then that's going to be the revenue or the profit if I'm looking for sales information. And so generally they look at revenue, that's the total money they made. So I have here, move this a little bit. Oh, it's still loading. Normally it's not this slow. So they're giving us a lot of information. So we have the annual revenue for 2019. So that was $131.868 billion. We have 2018 was $130.863 billion. And then 2017 is $126.034 billion. So this is the kind of data that I want. So I'm going to go back to my discussion board. And I'm actually going to enter in the discussion, and then I'm going to make a discussion post. And I'm going to kind of work through all this stuff while I'm in the discussion. So I am going to create thread. Maybe. There it goes. Okay. So it says pick a company whose sales you want to model, predict, look up their sales information, and pick 2 years of data. Okay. And I'm going to title this Professor's Discussion Prompt Answer. So that way you can actually see. So I decided to look at the data for Verizon. So you want to make sure that you say who you're looking at data for Verizon. I found it at, and then you want to include the link. So I'm going to go back to my link here, click here, and then you're going to copy and then just paste it in. And I have to use the keyboard, so I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut. There we go. Okay. So I've got my link there so that you can go back and see the data. So according to this website, and now just to make it easier for me, I'm going to copy in. I don't want the whole thing copied. Let me try highlighting. It really doesn't want me. Okay. So having issues with highlighting. I will just want. Okay, I'm gonna just highlight that because it's really freaking out on me. Okay, and then I'm going to just type in Verizon. There we go. And then I'm going to pull this down so I can have more space and actually see what I'm doing here. Okay. So I've just copied in the data here. So this is going to give us ordered pairs. For some reason, this is defaulting to the center. So if you want to clear any formatting, you hit this little eraser button. It's supposed to clear it. Apparently, Blackboard does not want to work. There we go. Okay. So now I'm in the left. So now I'm where I need to go. Okay. So I need to pick 2 years of data. So I need to pick 2 years from here. And usually the more recent the data, the better the data is. So my 2 years will be, and then you want to give it as an ordered pair, and it's always your year, comma, the value. So we're going to do 2018, and then we'll use 130.863, and 2019, 131.868. So those are the 2 years that I'm going to use to do my prediction. I'm going to go back. So pick a company with sales we want to model and predict, look up the sales information, and then pick 2 years of data. So we have done that so far. I looked up Verizon, I picked 2 years of data. So using that information, create a linear equation that can be used to predict the sales of the company. So we need to make a linear equation. We have some tips here. So this includes naming the company, sharing the ordered pairs, defining variables. So let's do the next part, defining variables. So let X be the years since. So we want to know, when are we counting? Are we going to just count from the year 2000 so that we enter, 2000, or what are we going to do? But we're going to just use years. So let's X be the year. That's what I did. X is the year. And then Y be the revenue in billions. So I'm just being explicit that X, I'm plugging in years, Y is going to be my revenue. And then just saying that's measured in billions because of that B. So that's the defining variables part. The next part, it says find the slope. So that's what I'm going to do. And this is where I need to use the equation editor. So I'm going to hit enter here. To do an equation editor, to write an equation, you go up here, you do launch math editor. If you don't see these other options, it will look just like this. You need to click this drop down here that says show more. And that's how you get these extra options. So I'm going to click this FX button, and this is where you get equations. So we'll load up in a new window, so you need to make sure that your pop-ups are in, that you can have pop-ups. And then you've got this math editor here. So slope, the symbol for slope is m. And I'm going to first start with the equation for slope, which is, it's going to be a fraction. So I'm going to click my fraction button. And then our equation for slope is y2 minus y1. So I'm going to type in y. To get y2, you want a subscript, so it's this button down here. So that's y2 plus y, and then I'm going to hit it again, y1. Or not y2 plus, it's y2 minus y1. And now I'm going to put, I have to go to the bottom, so I can hit the down arrow. And then it's x2 minus x1. So x, hit my subscript 2, I hit my arrow to get out of there, minus x, arrow down, x1. So I've got my equation for slope, and now I want to plug in my values. So I'm going to make sure that my arrow is to the right here. I'm going to do another equals, and now I got to make sure I can actually see my ordered pair. So I'm just moving that around. So first one, this is going to be x1, y1. This will be x2, y2. So my y2 is going to be the 131.868. So I'm going to make in my my fraction, and then I'm going to type in 131.868 minus, and the first y value, which is 130.868. Oops, that should be 863. I see a typo when I copied in my number, so I'm going to fix that and then go back up there. So it's actually 130.863. Okay, now I have to go down, and now I need my x values, so those are the years. So it's 2019 minus 28. Now I need to go all the way to the right again, hit equals, and now I'm going to actually do the math. So I'm going to start, I need to have a fraction here. So now I'm going to do my subtraction. 131.868 minus 130.863, 1.005. And then 2019 minus 2018 is 1. And then we're going to divide those numbers. 1.005 divided by 1 is 1.005. So I've just found the slope. I'm going to hit accept. And you can see where it just put it, because I had moved and put my my cursor when I fixed my error, and it put it right there. So I can highlight it. I can cut. And then I'm going to paste it below. And if you don't know the keyboard shortcut, you can use this button up here and hit paste. Okay, my browser doesn't like it. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, so it's going to paste it there. So be very careful that if you move your cursor, it's going to put it in a weird spot, but you can move it around. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I state the slope. So the slope is $1.005 billion per year. So top is in billions of dollars, the bottom is years, so that's $1 billion per year. So I'm just stating my slope here. So now we're trying to get in a linear equation, so this next part is determining the equation. So now we have to actually find the equation. I always use point slope form for equation because I think that's really easy to use. So now we're going to do some math again. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a new math editor. So I'm going to make a new one here. Wait for it to load. Okay, and I'm going to use point slope form. So point slope form is y minus y1. So I'm going to then use my subscript to get the y1 equals your slope m parentheses x minus x1. So then I'm going to go subscript x1 parentheses. And then I'm going to hit enter. So when we solve equations and we do math, we do it vertically. So I hit enter so that I can get to the new line. And now I'm going to plug in my numbers. I moved it over so I can see my numbers again. So I'm plugging in y1. So that's y minus, and then my y1 values is 130.863. 63 equals, and then m is my slope. So I'm moving over so I can see my slope. That was 1.005 parenthesis x minus, and then my x1 value is the year that goes with my y, so that's 2018. Now I'm going to hit enter because now I need to do the new line. So when we're getting our, we want to solve for y, and the first thing we need to do is distribute. So it's not letting me highlight what I want to highlight. We want to do the 1.005 and we want to multiply that through the parentheses. So the left side is going to stay the same. So I'm going to just copy that down. And then I'm going to distribute. So 1.05 times x is just going to be 1.005x. And then I'm doing 1.005 times negative 2018. So I'm actually going to write that out. And then I'm multiplying that by the negative 2018 there. So I'm just writing my distributing so that you know what that is. I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to actually do that multiplication. So I'm going to just copy everything else. 0.005x, and then I'm going to take my calculator, 1.005 times negative 2018. I get negative 1t28.09. Next step in solving is to add that negative 130.863 to both sides. So I'm going to just use like spaces so that I can line it up. So I need to add this to both sides. So I'm going to just keep hitting the space bar. It's a little slow, but that way I can line it up. Where did it go? There we go. Okay, there's my plus. So I'm not exactly, oh, now I got to move my arrows. I'm not exactly where, it's close enough. So I'm showing that I need to add that number to both sides. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then now on the left side, those cancel, we just have y. So I have y equals, my slope is still 1.005, and then we have x. And now I need to take that negative 2028.09 and add in 130.863. So that gives me minus 1897.227. And now I have my equation. You want to make it stand out. If you can get things to cooperate, you can highlight it and you can even change the color. So if I wanted to make that stand out, I can change that so that it's red if I wanted to. So I'm going to just hit accept. And now you can see that I've got my work here. So now I have my equation. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I need to do. Okay, so we determined the equation. We just did that. Now we want to use the equation to predict. And it says predict the sales 2 years from now. So it's 2020. So 2 years later is going to be 2022. So I need to predict the sales for 2022. So I'm going to just state that. I want to predict the sales for 2022, which is 2 years from now. This means, and I'm going to say that this means I'm going to plug in for x 2022 into my equation. So I'm going to then start a new equation so that I can enter it in. I'm just going to move it over so I can actually see my equation. Okay, so I'm plugging x equals 2022. So I'm going to start with my equation. Y equals, I have 1.005. And then I need to multiply it by x, which is 2022. So, whoops. Let me make sure I actually plug in the right year. And then I have minus 1897.227. I'm going to hit enter, and now I need to do that multiplication. Y equals, so I'm going to multiply 1.005 times 2022. So I got 2032.11. And then I have my minus 1897.227. Now I need to do that subtraction to get my final answer. Y minus 2032.11 and then minus 1897.27. We get 134.883. So then that's my final answer there. So I'm going to hit accept. So now that's in here. So I'm going to just say, okay, my prediction for 2022 is 134.883 billion in sales. Okay, so now I've done that, and I want to go back up to the discussion, make sure I've done everything. So let's just read through it. Pick a company whose sales you want to model and predict. Look up the sales information, pick 2 years of data. We did that. Using that information, create a linear equation that can be used to predict the sales of the company. We did that. Once you have your equation, predict 2 years from now. Okay, so that's what it says to do. And let's make sure you include in your posted links where you found the information. I did that. Clear, show your work. So I showed my work. I named the company. I shared the ordered pairs, defined variables, found slope, gave the equation, and then used the equation to predict. The next part is about replies. So I'm not replying to classmates right now, so I just did. So now we've finished. So I've done everything I needed to do with the discussion. And you can scroll up to make sure. So I got present, I got my link, shared the information, gave my ordered pairs, did my slope, found my equation. And if you made a mistake in one of these equations, like let's say I want to highlight or I found an error, click on the equation and then right click and you can see edit equation. So I can actually change something. So I'm going to actually first highlight my slope in red just so it stands out. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight my slope. If it really, normally the equation under is not this finicky. I'm going to just use my mouse. There we go. I'm going to just highlight that in red for my slope just so it stands out. And then hit accept. And then any changes you make, they'll show back up. So you can always fix your equation by right-clicking and doing edit equation if you find an error, if you messed up. And then maybe I'll do the same thing. Maybe I want to make my final answer in red, so I'm going to right-click here. Wait for it to load. And then it's really highlighting very strangely here. I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to make it. I'm going to just make that one red again. Hit accept, and then it updates. And then when you're done, and then you can just hit submit. So I'm going to hit submit right there. And now I've just walked through the discussion and everything you need to do, so that way you can see and then you can look at it. And so I'm going to just click to make sure everything's formatted right. And so you can see, okay, I've got my link. This is on the website what I copied in, and then you can see all of the math and everything right there. So that's everything you need to do for the discussion. Do you have any questions? If you already know what company you want to research, you can just go to Google. And then you can type in, so let's say I want to do Amazon sales or revenue, so I can do Amazon revenue. And so hit enter. So this gives me the number for 2018, but I need 2 years of data, so that's not enough information. But that macro trends, which is the website I used, it actually pops up, and so I can click that link that popped up. And then scroll down once it loads past. And then again, I've got revenue and profit, and so they give us the last 3 years. You can see Amazon revenue, and so then you get the same sort of information. So that's a good way to find data from a company. This website is really great because it gives you basically everything that you need to know. So that's it. As long as you follow these steps, that took me about half an hour to go through there. It might take you a little longer because you are, trying to decide what company you want. And you might be double checking your math and everything, but this is everything you need to do for the discussion. And then the whole point of the discussion is when you're replying to classmates is, do you think this is a good prediction? Do you think that, or like Verizon in my case, is going to continually increase in sales, or do you think something's going to change? Do you think it's going to increase more? Do you think it's going to start making less money? And you can talk about different companies. I think Verizon's going to increase because they're starting into 5G, and that's like a huge thing. But there might be other companies that maybe something was recently in the news and they're not going to do as well, So you can have these whole conversations based on whether you think these are good predictions. And this can also help you when you're, if you're looking for a stock to invest in. If you're looking at it and then it's increasing and you think it's going to continue increasing, you may want to buy this stock. So, let's say you're doing something in investment. This can kind of help you think about where do you want to invest your money. Say you have retirement, or I use Robinhood, which and I usually invest in the stocks that are like $2 that are super cheap. But you can take some data like this, and then that can help you, make decisions on who you want to invest in and hopefully get some money. So that's the discussion in a nutshell. So hopefully that gave you an idea of, a better understanding of linear equations on top of that and how they're used in real life. And if you end up running into any issues or you have any questions, just let me know, and I would be happy to help you. So thank you very much for joining, and let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great Friday and a wonderful weekend. So thank you so much.